Hey everyone, I'm Ben. Welcome to my first build video. Today I'll be building one of the best ready available keyboards, which is the SkyLoong GK61X. GK61X is one of the more popular starter kits. In the box, we have a 2-meter braided Type-C, a keycap and a switch puller which comes in handy, a 3-space bar module. This is something unique that only GK series have this option where you can change the spacebar layout to something like that. And a Chinese instructions or note. Alright, this is the GK61 keyboard. Wow, this is heavy. This is a solid aluminum feel. It's kinda heavy. So let me just put all of these things aside first so I can let the keyboard sit on the table. Let me put this note at the side. So this is the GK61X wired version keyboard. Okay, so here is the caution note on how to set the switch into the keyboard. There's an English translation below the Chinese writing, which is quite good. Behind we can see the instruction on how to change the spacebar layout. Looks direct. Just screw and unscrew some PCB and you are able to change it directly. This is quite nice to know. This is the manual for the keyboard. It shows you all the shortcut keys and the function keys in the keyboard. Right behind the note, it is the Chinese version of this. It's very handy. So let me put this aside. Let's first look at the keyboard. Let me just flip this over. As we can see here, there are rubber pads fixed on each corner of the keyboard, which helps to prevent from sliding when typing. This is quite good a feature to have. Here you can see the steps are stationary, not something that I would personally use, but it is provided. I believe this could be replaced if you prefer normal stabilizer with the metal bar in between. But overall, the first impression of the GK61 keyboards, it looks decent, and with the basic steps already installed for you, is quite a good starter kit for you all. There's one thing I need to tell you. The GK61 keyboard has a few casing available. Currently, as you can see here, this is a heavy one, which is the aluminum casing. It's quite heavy. It gives you some sort of a stable, heavy feel to it. I think I'll take this to a measure to see what's the weight. Okay, so the weight is around 850 grams or 1.8 pounds. I know the casing might be a bit heavy for some of you, but don't worry. There are many widely available casing such as plastic casing, clear casing, and even wooden casing. Let's take a look inside. It only uses a crosshead screwdriver and the screws are very visible, so you could just run through the keyboard and unscrew all the screws. As you can see, the screws are visible on the surface of the keyboard and there are no hidden screws for this case. If possible, to use a magnetic tip screwdriver, as some screws might accidentally drop into the holes of the keyboard and you might need a tweezer to take the screw out. The PCB is sandwiched between the casing and the faceplate. By removing the faceplate, you can access the PCB. There is a trick of removing this PCB. You just need to put a lever in this slot. I am using the tweezer to pop the PCB out. Normally I would just flip the case and the PCB would just easily pop out. But if you are having the Bluetooth version, which is the GK61SX, there would be a battery pack right around there. So it's better to just sleeve the PCB from the case than just turn the case upside down, as you might damage the board and the battery. There is really no reason for you to remove the casing, as this is a hot swappable keyboard. This might be some habit of mine, but I do like to examine the interior of the keyboard to know what it is underneath the PCB. From the disassembly, we know that in the future, if you want to upgrade this keyboard, there is an option to add a damper at the bottom of the PCB. That being said, let me reassemble back the keyboard. One of the reasons for the GK61X being a popular choice as a starter keyboard is that we do not need to solder the switch to the PCB. As I mentioned before, the GK61X is a hot swappable keyboard. You do not even need to disassemble the keyboard. You could directly assemble your mechanical keyboard from the box. This is actually quite handy for beginner and those who want to test out the feeling of the switch on an actual keyboard. Hot swappable keyboard gives you the ability to just pop the switch out and pop a new set of switch in. If you plan to buy this, you do not need to actually disassemble like what I did just now. You could straight assemble your keyboard with your preferred switch and keycaps. Before I start assembly, I would normally test the PCB out first. You need to plug your keyboard into the PC first. I will be using the Type-C cable provided. First thing after plugging into PC, I will always check if all the LED is light up. If there is any LED that is not light up, I would normally check the soldering or replace with another LED. From what I can see, the PCB has no LED defects as all the LED is lit up. For testing the PCB for any defect on the switch holes, I would normally use a tweezer or a short wire just to short the two pins of the PCB. When shorted, it acts as if you are pressing the button. You will need to use a keyboard testing software like this one, link in the description if you are interested to use it. This software is very useful as it will show you which specific key is currently shorted. I would normally do this before I start assembling my switches into the keyboard, so if I assemble my keyboard and has a key that is not registering, I could know that it is the switch that is the problem and not the PCB. It's also good practice because it will be a hassle to assemble and then disassemble my keyboard if there is a problem on the PCB. Do note that you just need to gently touch the two switches pins of the socket and not to try to poke through the holes as it will damage the PCB. If the hot swappable sockets are damaged, it will be a bigger problem as you need to order the sockets and replace it. For 60% keyboard, you would have the 60% of the keyboard, which is 61 keys from a standard regular keyboard. Once you're done testing with all the buttons in the PCB and the PCB is working fine, you could start assemble the switches. Once you are done testing all the buttons in the PCB and it is all working fine, you could start assemble the switches. I will be using Otomo weight linear switches for this build. So this is what a mechanical keyboard switch look like. As you can see here, there are two pins of the switch will be inserted to the PCB socket that we use to test the PCB out. Always make sure that the legs are straight so that it can be inserted into a socket. Normally, the two legs of the switch will be facing you. You just need to align the switch into the PCB socket and just gently press it down. You might feel a click when you press the switch into the plate. Always make sure the legs are straight before inserting in the socket. If you notice a bent leg like this one, you just need to use a tweezer and straighten the leg out. If you insert the switch with a bent leg, it might not enter the socket of the PCB and the PCB might not have a register when you are pressing the key, as the switch is not connected due to the bent leg. So always make sure the pins of the switch are straight and align the switch into the correct position before inserting it into the socket. I would normally loop the switch first before I insert the switch into the socket, but I will not be doing this in this video as this video will only serve as a basic build for the SkyLoong GK61X. I will create another video and talk about the looping switch and how to do it, and also how to improve and upgrade this keyboard performance and sound. Do subscribe to know more about it. Talking about switches, there are many types of switches and many brands such as Cherry, MX, Gateron, Kyle. You could use any standard 3-pin switch for this board, but for this build, just so happens I have a pack of Otomo weight switches lying around. It is a budget-friendly switches and it is 50G, which is slightly heavier than the 45G Cherry MX weight. After done inserting the switches, it's time to put on the keycaps. For a 60% keyboard, it is the easiest to find keycaps that is suitable for it. Almost every keycap set that is usable for a standard could be used for a 60% keyboard. That is why 60% keyboard is one of the best beginner's kit. This is the Tai-Hao Ocean Blue, I think. I can't remember what keycaps this is, but I know I got it from AliExpress. It is a double ABS short keycaps, so the characters of the keycap will light up when there is LED on the board. I remember this is a full set keycaps, and there might be a few size of keycaps for the spacebar. Yep, this is not the correct size. It needs to be a shorter one. Putting on the keycaps might take some time, as you need to insert every keycaps in the correct position. For those that are not familiar with the 60% keyboards, the 60% keyboard does not have the numpad F1 to F off function keys, the arrow keys, and the navigation keys. You could refer to the manual that is provided to map the keys accordingly. For 60% keyboards, normally these keys that is missing from the usual standard layout will be added to the function keys. The manual will have the shortcuts to these buttons. So if you have a full set of keyboard keycaps like this one, it will be best to split the keycaps into group first and then start putting on the keycaps. It will save you some time. Or if your keycaps are already prepacked with the keyboard layout, then it will save a lot of time. Alright, we have done the keyboard. Before I start testing, just out of curiosity, how heavy is the keyboard now? It is roughly around 1 kg now, quite heavy for a keyboard. Normally after I assemble the keyboard, I will run through the keyboard test again to make sure all my switches are installed correctly. Keyboard tester link URL is in the description below. Alright, we have successfully assembled our GK61X. Let us do a sound test with this keyboard. I will be doing a review of this keyboard in my upcoming video. If you enjoy my video and would like to see more, do like and subscribe as I will be posting videos quickly. If you have any problem with building, do comment, I will gladly help you out. Bye.